hey ha ya hey ha ya hey ya hey ha yo hey yo hey yo hey ha ya hey ya ya hey ya hey ha yo hey yo hey yo hey ha ya 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 hey ha yo hey yo hey yo Fort Peck Community College Uki Epino yo yo me too gashi dagush kashka yogi piano yo yo wata pebi hagi ktabi ichachi ya bino hey yo hey yo hey ha ya hey ha ya hey ya hey ha yo hey yo hey yo hey ha ya hey ya yo hey ha yo hey yo hey yo hey ha ya hey ha hey ha ya hey ha ya hey ha ya hey ha yo hey yo hey yo Fort Peck Community College Uki Epino yo yo me too gashi dagush kashka yogi piano yo yo wata pebi hagi ktabi ichachi ya bino hey yo hey yo hey ha ya hey ha ya hey ya hey ha yo hey yo hey yo hey ha ya hey ya yo hey ya hey ha yo hey yo hey yo hey ha ya hey ha hey ha ya hey ha ya hey ha ya hey ha hey yo hey yo hey yo Fort Peck Community College Uki Epino yo yo me too gashi dagush kashka yogi piano yo yo wata pebi hagi ktabi ichachi ya bino hey yo hey yo hey ha ya hey ha ya hey ya hey ha yo hey yo hey yo hey ha ya hey ya yo hey ya hey ha yo hey yo hey yo hey ha ya hey ha hey ha ya hey ha ya hey ha ya hey ha hey yo hey yo hey yo Fort Peck Community College Uki Epino yo yo me too gashi dagush kashka yogi piano yo yo wata pebi hagi ktabi ichachi ya bino hey yo
Mitakuipi, Kaish, Mitaguyabi, okay, Dayan Chimnagab, Mitakuipi, Dayan Yahipido, Wanawa Chinja Wakpa, Wonspel Kantu Yadechia, Dayan Yahipido, Mitakuipi. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Fort Peck Community College Guest Speaker Series. Again, I am Elijah Hopkins. Today is Monday, May 10th, 2021. I am joined again by our guest speaker, Miss Jonny BearCub Stiffarm. We sent out an invitation to see if she would join us and share some of her knowledge with us about today about the Fort Peck Tribe's buffalo restoration project. And so she's some expert knowledge in the field. She's worked on the project for a number of years, and so she's graced us with her presence here today. So again, I want to thank you, Jonny, for joining us. And so, if you could today, for those of us that are out there on Facebook, on the webinar call here with us, if you could just kind of maybe give us an overview on the tribe's history and the relationship with the buffalo, we'll kind of let the discussion go from there.
Okay, well, I'll kind of give a chronological timeline so you can kind of get an idea as to how long different folks over the years have worked on this. We have a small document called the Notable Milestones in the History of the Buffalo Restoration of Fort Peck. Mr. Bob McAnally and Beth Rink of MSU and Julia Haggerty from MSU all worked together on trying to put together this type of history. And it's a work in process, and we're continually adding to it. But when we take a look at the buffalo and American Indians, especially our tribe, we found out through research and that the last buffalo killed on the Fort Peck lands was at a time when there began to have tremendous suffering by our people. And the last buffalo we determined was killed between 1982 and 1983. And after that, there was starvation and much disease, and our people really suffered. In the 1880s to the 1980s, our buffalo relations were honored through prayer and ceremony. And our tribes kept trying very hard to keep that buffalo connection alive, even though they didn't have any live buffalo to help sustain them. And they rarely ever saw any buffalo because the buffalo were also being exterminated at the same time. But we never forgot them. We kept them alive in our songs and in our ceremonies and in our prayers. In the 1970s to 1980s, a lot of the tribal folks, both in the United States and Canada, began discussions and started to begin to try to establish buffalo herds. And then in the 1980s, that was when it started to have very serious discussions here at Fort Peck about acquiring a buffalo herd for our tribe. And then in 1990, the Theodore Roosevelt National Park offered 50 buffalo to the Fort Peck tribes. That was 31 years ago when this park made the offering to us to take 30 buffalo from them. At that time, we weren't quite ready. We didn't have the fencing in place. We didn't have land available. We weren't ready to take them. So in 1990, 19 American Indian tribes gathered together, and they launched and created the Intertribal Bison Council. And that was created in Rapid City, South Dakota. Also in 1990, there were the ranchers Dick and Valerie Smith offered their ranch as a base for the Fort Peck tribe's buffalo ranch. This later becomes the Turtle Mound Buffalo Ranch. Then in the year 2000, the Fort Peck Tribal Executive Board passed a resolution to move the buffalo program forward. It's quite, we're not quite sure if this resolution came around 2000 or 2001. We're still trying to research and find that exact resolution, but that was about the time that our tribe made the official decision to go forward. In January and February of 2001, 100 buffalo arrived here at Fort Peck, and we bought those 100 buffalo from Fort Belknap. Then in February of 2001, they had a welcoming ceremony to welcome those 100 buffalo here. And in also that same year, the Fort Peck Tribal Executive Board adopted its first 5-year plan for a Fort Peck buffalo herd, and the buffalo program was put into place. From 2001 to 2004, those were the early days of the buffalo program when they were trying to get established, trying to learn how to take care of the buffalo, trying to learn how we can use the buffalo and have them help us in such a way to help our communities. In 2004, the buffalo program implemented a fee hunting as a source of program revenue. In order to make sure that we had what we needed to help sustain those buffalo, they needed revenue and they needed money. And so they started to sell hunts at that time. In 2004 to 2014, Tribal Fish and Game Commission was kind of inactive, and this is the oversight group for fish and game made up of appointed members. That has been revitalized. In 2013 to 2015, there was developed a brand new management plan for the buffalo program. In the 1970s to 1990s, Yellowstone National Park system for managing buffalo kept bouncing around to different policies. And the tribes at that time had sporadic access to hunt the buffalo or to collect carcasses on the park's northern boundary. Indian nations had held a ride to Gardner, Montana in protest of this behavior and policy. In 1996, the Intertribal Bison Council and the National Wildlife Federation initiated a partnership to campaign for a bison management reform in Yellowstone Park. In February 12th of 1997, the tribal chairman, Caleb Shields, addresses the joint session of Montana legislature, calling for a stop to the slaughter of Yellowstone bison and offering alternatives. In 1997, the Intertribal Bison Council and National Wildlife Federation released what they call the Citizen Plan. It was focusing on public to tribal transfer of live Yellowstone bison as an alternative to slaughter. In 2005, the first Yellowstone bison were quarantined near Gardner, Montana. In 2007, the Montana Fish and Wildlife Parks deemed quarantined bison were fit for live relocation. In 2009 and 2010, the Fort Peck tribes did an expansion of our buffalo ranch in preparation of receiving Yellowstone bison. In 2010, the first Yellowstone bison were released from quarantine and they went to Ted Turner's Flying D Ranch. In 2012, the Fort Peck tribe signed a memorandum of understanding with Montana Fish and Wildlife Parks to acquire 64 bison from Yellowstone National Park. March 19th of 2012, 63 Yellowstone bison arrive at Fort Peck during the middle of the night during a spring storm. They are welcomed by a gathering of Assiniboine people at the bridge over the Missouri River at the entrance to the reservation and by their Sioux relatives at the Turtle Mound Buffalo Ranch. March 21st of 2012, there's a huge celebration and press conference in Poplar attended by the governor of Montana and many guests about the arrival of these buffalo. In August of 2013, Fort Peck transferred 36 of these Yellowstone bison to Fort Belknap after a year of delay due to a variety of court injunctions. November 13th through 15th of 2014, another 139 Yellowstone bison arrive after living on 4 years on Ted Turner's property just outside of Bozeman. In September 23rd of 2014, Fort Peck tribes joined the Northern Plains nations from both the US and Canada as signatories to the Northern Tribes Buffalo Treaty. And since 2015, we have received more bison from Yellowstone Park. We have been able to transfer a lot more bison to other areas. The Fort Peck Tribes quarantine facility was approved, and we now hold Yellowstone bison in their third quarter of quarantine. And once they graduate from our quarantine, we have a program set up where we keep 30% of those buffalo to move back into our herds for genetic diversity. The other 70% of the buffalo we transfer to other federally recognized tribes, conservation parks, and conservation groups looking for the restoration of buffalo, and also to national parks and national zoos and state parks all over the nation. So at this point in time, we've just been transferring them to other tribes, but we're slowly going to be moving out in the other areas. We have transferred some of our buffalo to the Bronx Zoo, and we've transferred buffalo to a variety of different tribal nations. I think the most notable one was the buffalo that we sent to Alaska. We trucked them out to Seattle, Washington, and from Seattle, FedEx stepped up and volunteered and donated their services to fly those 3 buffalo up to the Kodiak Islands so that they could join that herd up there. Those buffalo swim back and forth, but it was so cool because we actually had flying buffalo wings at that time. So we celebrated in honor of those buffalo going back. But you can tell that the fight over from 31 years ago, when we first had opportunity to take buffalo, until today, it has been a long, hard battle. It has been a legal battle. It has been a focus of trying to do education. The argument against us being able to transport buffalo over our roads and from one place to another has always been the fear of brucellosis. As far as we know, there has never ever been a documented case of cattle losing their babies because of brucellosis caught from buffalo. There has been a lot of cases documented where they have lost their calves because they have had exposure to elk. But you don't hear the state arguing that they're going to turn down all the elk hunters because of the elk. So, you know, it's really a catch-22 when you're talking about buffalo. It's never really a very smooth road. It has always been a rocky road. But the path back here to our tribe has been the focus of several people on our reservation who came far before me, who really worked on this. And their whole goal and focus was to try to find a way of bringing our relatives home that can help with the healing of our tribe, to help us come back in balance once again. So, you know, it's all great and good to talk about it, but what do you actually do? One of the interesting things that have happened is that there was this volunteer group, a small volunteer group got organized, and they call themselves the Peck group. It's made up of non-Indians and tribal members. Some of them are teachers, you know, some of them are administrators, but a variety of different people who had a concern and wanted to do whatever they could to help Fish and Game, to help fulfill this promise that we're trying to make the buffalo accessible to our people, and we can use it in ways for education, for healing. And so one of the things that they did, and they worked with MSU, was to do a survey. And they did a survey all across the reservation. Here's the document that has their survey results. But some of the questions that they asked was, how do tribal members value buffalo? You know, they interviewed 369 people. 285 of them were enrolled members of our tribe. 51% of the people were from Poplar, Brockton, and Fort Kip. 49% of the people were from Wolf Point, Fraser, and Oswego. It was interesting to note that 63% of the responses came from women. So, you know, they had several really interesting questions in there. And one of the questions were communicating about buffalo management with tribal members, that said tribal members should be consulted about goals for tribal buffalo management. 74% agreed with that. How do tribal members value buffalo? 88% agreed that buffalo should be valued as wildlife. Some said it should be valued as our relatives. Some said it should be valued as livestock, but 88% said wildlife. Securing buffalo meat and products. The answers were, I know how to obtain buffalo meat or products from sources on the reservation. 23% said yes. I have requested buffalo meat, you know, and that. But I thought one of the interesting ones was that they asked is, you know, it doesn't say on this one, but I think one of the questions that they asked was, do you know how many herds our tribe has? Did you know our tribe had a buffalo herd? It was interesting to see that a lot of people did not even realize or know that our tribe had a herd. They didn't realize how long our herds have been here. And many people had never gone up to actually see our buffalo. You know, once in a while they had heard about it, but they really didn't know about it. So I was hired by the World Wildlife Fund to do some community advocacy and education, and also to help the Peck group in enabling them to focus on the goals that they wanted to achieve and working with Fish and Game to help build their infrastructure and strengthen them. So we did a variety of things. We took a good hard look at their management style and at their organization. We found that they offered tribal members a a buffalo lottery. But the tribal members who were applying was a very small number because nobody knew about it. Fish and Game didn't have the time to write it up or get everything out there and stuff like that. So I said, okay, we're going to change all this. So we began to write and put it on Facebook and use social media to let everybody know that the tribe actually has this buffalo lottery for tribal members. We made it easier because usually people just gave Fish and Game a piece of paper and said, here's my phone number, put me in the lottery. So what we did is we changed all of that and we made an application form. You actually have to fill out an application now and submit a written application. We have your name, we have your contact information, we know where you live, we have your tribal enrollment number. Once we got those applications, we gave them to tribal enrollment and they double checked to make sure these guys were really enrolled in the tribe because they have access to the special lottery. And we got information out there. The other thing that and so from about 20 to 30 applicants a year, we now have over 300 tribal members, and it's growing every year who apply for the tribal member buffalo lottery. It's not free. The lottery is easy to enter and you don't have to pay to enter the lottery, but if you should happen to be drawn as one of the 30 winners, then you have to pay $125 deposit to hold your space. And within 30 days of the lottery, you have to get that paid, and then you have to pay the rest of it. So your total buffalo for your hunt is going to cost you $500, which is a lot cheaper than the non-Indians. And for the non-Indian side, what we did there, because they had a limited number of people who kept applying every year and it wasn't expanding, we changed all of that. We put all of that on the internet. We contracted with a third party and who provides this type of service to multiple tribes and also to different states. And we got them to do all of our Fish and Game permits and license and our lottery. So we put on there that if you wanted to hunt, if you were a non-Indian, meaning if you were white or you were black or you were a person from another tribe and not enrolled at Fort Peck, and you wanted to hunt a buffalo on our reservation, then you had to buy a lottery ticket. And this was a non-refundable lottery ticket. And you're limited to only 5. So you could buy 5 lottery tickets and you enter into the lottery. So we make $100 right there, non-refundable. And once you enter into the lottery, the computer will pick the winners. And if you're a winner, then you have to pay a $10 fee and a $25 fee just to be able to, those are what we call our land access fee and our administrative fee. So already we've made $125. And then if you're hunting an antelope, you drew for an antelope, that's another $500. So that's $625 you're paying into the tribal Fish and Game coffers. If you're going for a buffalo, you already paid the $125 plus you have to pay the fee for the buffalo, depending on what category of buffalo you're looking for. If it's a 2-year-old, I think it's $2,500 and the price continually goes up. But if you're a big game hunter and you want to hunt a trophy buffalo, then that's a live bidding on the internet. And what that starts out as a $5,000 base bid, and it's by $100 increments. And if you're a hunter and you enter into the lottery and you want to go after that trophy bull and you enter your $5,100, 3 hours later, your phone dings, bingo, you're notified, someone outbid you. And we have so many, we only have 2 or 3 of those a year that we put up for bid. And so that increments the pricing on those trophy animals. So with all of these changes and adjustments, it's made it a lot easier and more accessible for tribal members to be able to participate in these buffalo hunts. One of the things that we've also tried to do is try to make sure that all of the schools on the reservation had access. And so the tribal resolution was passed to give 1 buffalo to every school on the reservation and 1 buffalo to a school in Malta and a school in Culbertson. They cannot raffle their buffalo off for a fundraiser. They cannot do that. But they can come out and they can harvest their buffalo and they can take it and they can do a variety of things with it, with their school clubs and their community. I know Fraser community has taken their buffalo, they've had it processed, they've given it out to the elders in their community. They've used some of their buffalo meat for some of their Indian club and other clubs, to cook with, to be able to have food sales and stuff with. So they've been able to do that. I know some of the other schools have been active in doing other things too. So that's one of the things that our school has been able to do. If you would have asked some of our young people 8 years ago if they knew we had buffalo herds, they would probably say no. Today, if you take a look at our cultural herd, we have over 3,000 visitors a year. We now have Head Start coming, bringing their classes out to the Buffalo Ranch. And when they come out, I meet with them. I have a buffalo box. In the buffalo box are all the different parts that they can play with. They have the tail, that's the fly swatter. And the kids just love to take that tail and kind of swat. They're not supposed to hit each other, but they do it anyway. There's a necklace made out of bones of the buffalo. All the kids love putting on that necklace. Their favorite is when I hold up the Ziploc bag of the buffalo chip and say, this was used to make fires. This was used for this, and to cook with that. And the kid said, what is that? What is that, teacher? I said, well, this is buffalo poop. Oh my God, and all the kids laugh, and then they all want to touch it, and we go through the buffalo box. They're out at the ranch. And then when I'm busy teaching from the buffalo box, all the fish and game folks are there, and they'll take a chaperone and a couple of kids in each truck, and they'll take them out to actually go close to the buffalo so that they can see them. And we do that in the springtime when a lot of the baby buffalo are born. So you have a whole generation of Head Start children now for the past 4 years who have seen buffalo, live buffalo. They know it belongs to the tribe. They know it's a part of the tribe. The other thing that we did in working with MSU and Head Start is we created a buffalo program curriculum so that all the little Head Start children that go to school here at Fort Peck, they learn how the buffalo came back to Fort Peck. We have a little short video of about 4 minutes that each of the Head Start classrooms have on a little zip drive, and they can watch this video, or they can download it from the internet and watch it on their smart screens. And it's a video with me and 2 little boys, and then it has some puppets in it and stuff. So the children, they can see that. They see how the buffalo came home. They see, what happened to them, all of this stuff. So they get a basic understanding of that. We're having little drums made for them. So when they see the video of where their Thomas Garska and all of them are singing, welcoming the buffalo home, and the buffalo are coming off that semi, we're getting them little semis and little tiny buffaloes so they can reenact all of that. They can practice singing that song, they can learn about it. They try, the Head Start cooks try to put in buffalo meat that week when they're having their meals for their kids, so they can re-emphasize that this is a part of the history of this place. This is a part of the history of Fort Peck. So they're introduced to that. We have multiple kids now. So if you take and did a survey on our reservation, I would say that the responses back to the knowledge that we have a buffalo herd here is going to be way different than the survey that they did, a couple of years ago, because more people do know. We have a lot of the rest homes who bring their elderly out, and they'll park out at the buffalo ranch, and the elderly will be able to see the buffalo as they walk all over. So exposure and encouraging people to come up and actually look at our cultural herd. Our cultural herd is the one we encourage people to come and visit. We restrict access to our business herd, mostly because the terrain there is a lot rougher. We try to keep those bison as wild as we can, because they're the ones that we use to generate our revenue from our non-Indian hunters. But our cultural herd, is for our people and for our community. The other thing that we have done, and that the Buffalo program has always done, has been to try to provide buffalo and parts of the buffalo for our medicine lodges, for our Sundance people, for our religious ceremonies, and they encourage folks to do that. And so whenever they have the ability to provide that to them, they do provide it. In taking a look at how we're trying to expand access, one of the things that happened is that the Pate group, working with Fish and Game, began to create what we call the trail. And it's called the Story Pole Trail. And I'm not sure if you can see this, but it's called the Buffalo Connection Trail. And we asked students on the west side of the reservation to give us a name, bring up some names. And we asked the students on the east side to come up with some names. So our trail has two different names. The Dakota name is All That Walk on the Land, and the Nakota name is Buffalo Hills. And so in 2016, the trail, hopefully you can see it. This trail below was planned, and in 2017, the tribe passed a resolution authorizing the building of a family and community Buffalo Connections and Prayer Sites Trail alongside the Buffalo Ranch to foster the important connections of our people to the sacred animal. That's the mission of the trail. The trail name is given by students representing the Dakota Oyate and the Nakota Oyate, and it's designed to be continually evolving and growing over time. So our first installation that we're going to get up, and we set the foundation for it last summer, is this one. It's called the Story Pole. And what we did is we went all across the reservation, asked all of the schools to art classes to give us stencils, draw a stencil and design a stencil. And so it's gonna go on this type of a thing like that. And so they wrote and they made different types of stencils that would represent them. And the Montana MSU School of Architect used these pucks like this. And if you take a look at your countertops that you put your sinks in and other things, they're made out of this material. So all of this material is the throwaway material that's recycled. And so MSU School of Architecture gathered as much of that material as they could. And that's the material we're using on these things. And what's going to happen is these buffalo will, once this art installation is put into place on the southern part of the cultural herd, the buffalo can walk up to them and they can rub on them and they'll weave and they'll move like that. And those pucks will grab some of that loose hair so that when people come and they come out to the Buffalo Ranch, and we're hopefully get the first quarter mile done within the next couple of years, they can walk that trail and they can go to that art installation and they can take the hair, the buffalo hair from it, and take it home with them. We have about 6 or 7 art installations. We're figuring this trail is going to take us 20, 10, 15, 20 years to build. We're looking at putting composting toilets there and putting benches and a shade and enclosing those with fencing so that we protect the people from the buffalo if the buffalo should happen to come close, to give them a buffalo proof enclosure so that the people can be inside the enclosure and view the buffalo safely. We're trying to build this trail in that manner. We're hoping that if we get this trail built, that it'll be something that our people can use. All of our sculptures that we're putting out there are interactive. We've got markers for our story poles. We've got, we went through a whole variety of samples of different ideas that we brought everywhere. How are we going to put it out there? How can we do this? We were able to get some funding from some private foundations to help us with this first leg, some funding from Montana parks and from the federal parks. So we're slowly getting there, and hopefully over time, more and more people will have access to our buffalo. We did a variety of different buffalo meat sales over the years to test and try to get as many people to have access to tasting buffalo at an affordable price. This past time of COVID, we were able to use some of the COVID money to process about 36 of the Fort Peck tribe's buffalo that we had community services worked really hard on getting that out to our communities across the reservation so that people would have that as a supplement to their meals. I would say compared to 10 years ago, there is a huge percentage of people on the reservation today who have tasted buffalo meat and have had experience with it. So the path back has been hard. It's been full of barriers, full of mistakes, full of great success. We are focusing, many different people from the Peck group are focusing on being able to comply with our Buffalo Treaty. In our Buffalo Treaty, we made promises that we as tribes who are the Buffalo tribes would use our buffalo for healing, use our buffalo for our culture, use our buffalo to help take care of us through the generation of revenue, use our buffalo in ways that it becomes a daily part of our lives. When I was young, we didn't have buffalo. You know, we talk about it, we read about it in books. We only saw a live buffalo if we went to a zoo or we went to a park that had them, like Yellowstone. But not all Indian kids had that opportunity. So a lot of my relatives and cousins and friends that grew up around here, they didn't know that. They didn't see them. Now we have grandchildren and great-grandchildren. From the time they were born, they've always known about our buffalo. We have people who bring their babies out with them when they come on family hunts. I think two things are really impactful for me. Whenever we have a veteran who has been in combat, especially a tribal member who comes to hunt, and they hunt a buffalo, it's a very spiritual thing for them. You know, a lot of them do the hunting and, you know, they may not know the ceremony, but, you know, we always offer to help them find people to help them so they'll know what to do because they want to participate in some type of ceremony. They want to be a part of that. And so they make their offerings, they do what they need to do in that with a little bit of help. And many of them really cry because it's a part of the healing. It's really a special release for them. And it helps them. It helps them reconnect back to who they are as tribal people. It helps them reconnect to their ancestors. It helps them reconnect to the land. And that's very healing for them. The other thing I find with our hunts is when family members get hunts, it's not just the hunter who comes out. It's the entire extended family. Sometimes you'll have 5 or 6, 7 vehicles filled with family members. From tiny babies to the grandmas and great grandmas, they all come out to the buffalo ranch. The hunters will get in the fish and game truck to go with them and they'll go off, but everybody else will follow behind. And Robbie's all saying, you got to be quiet. You got to be quiet. Stay at least 6 cars behind. You got to be quiet. You know, everybody tries to comply, you know, but it's hard because it's so exciting. But everyone goes out and follows, and then the hunter will make the kill. And then we'll let all the family members know that they can drive up, they can come closer. Robbie makes sure that the animal has really, really been down and is really gone. Then they make their offerings and they pray. And then family members come over, kids come over and they get to touch the buffalo. Everyone takes their pictures with them. Everybody's excited. You know, it really becomes a memorable moment for that family. It's a highlight for that family. It draws the family closer together. You know, they're very proud. They're very thankful. A lot of the old folks, you know, who've never seen buffalo net, you know, they cry. It really makes a huge impact for them. And the young kids, you know, they realize how important it is for their grandparents. So it reinforces the knowledge that the buffalo is not just an animal that's going to feed them. The buffalo really is an integral part of our spiritual and our religious world. And so all of those things are helping to revitalize our culture. It's helping to revitalize our traditional religion. It's providing a healing mechanism and a healing catalyst for our families on our reservation. Over the years, we've talked about, you know, what can we do at Fish and Game to get people to be able to come out there and experience nature. You know, sure, a lot of us do go hunting, but it's usually uncles or someone older. And once in a while, a couple of the young kids get to go hunting with them. You know, some families go fishing along the river and that, you know, but not everybody has that chance. So just this past month, Fish and Game was able to get to put in a bid for a used man camp because Williston oil companies are getting rid of their man camps. So we lowballed the bid because they had a starting bid of 50,000. So we lowballed the bid just a smidge over that 50,000 because I told Robbie, you know, nobody's going to bid on them. You know, nobody's going to really want them. So, you know, go for it. And he went to the tribe, got permission, and we went for it. He got the bid. So we got a facility and it was delivered out there and we got it put together. We're getting ready to put the septic tanks and stuff in. We'll get electricity out to them in about a couple of weeks, about 2 weeks. They're insulating where they hook together and that right now. And then it's got to be cleaned and sanitized. But one of the things that we want to do is build a deck right outside of that man camp. And it'll be a deck just right on the ground, not very high off the ground. But we want to put a deck out there. We want to have benches and that built there. We want to have a nice fire pit built there. And then we want to invest in a big telescope. We want to be able to have Spotted Bull bring their young parents. We have many single fathers on the reservation raising their kids, barely making it. I mean, you know, they're trying hard. And if we have this set up, then those counselors can bring out their clients. They can bring out maybe 4 or 5 families and have them stay out there. We have cooking facilities and everything out there. And then in the evening, they can go out and sit on this deck. They can have their little fire pit. They can tell stories, have someone come out and tell some of our stories. They say we can only tell our stories in wintertime. I believe that, but you got to remember, it's always winter somewhere in the world. May not be winter right here, but it's winter somewhere. And today we need to take advantage of every adaptation we can to pass this knowledge on. So if you don't have someone tell you your stories when they're alive, when winter comes, they may not be here if you wait for winter on our grounds. But if you talk to the Creator and you ask their blessings and permission to tell a story because there is winter someplace in this world, then they'll give you permission so you could tell that story. And I think that's something that we need to do. But we acknowledge that that was the way it was at one time. So someone can come out and sit and tell all the stories that they can tell and share with the families there. And in addition to that, when it gets really, really dark out there, bring that telescope out and have those fathers and have the children look at the stars and tell stories about the star people. We have many stories that talk about the stars from many different tribes. It doesn't have to be just our tribe, many different tribes. But how many of our children have actually looked at stars and seen them? How many of our adults have actually been able to look through a telescope and see not only the stars, but planets and the wonders of space? We always talk about the Milky Way and we can see it. Have we ever really looked at it through a telescope? So there's so much more that can be done out there. You know, we can talk about the birds. How many of our people know the names of our birds that are out there? And, you know, the stories that are tied and related to specific little birds that are out there. We don't do that. So you need to teach ecology. You need to teach how to conserve the land, how to take care of the grasslands. One of the things that we're looking at, and we've been working closely with Dr. Kuhn of Fort Peck Community College and his students and his lab and Mr. Sunroads, is doing the testing of our buffalo. They've been getting these grants to do testing. We want to check them for parasites, making sure that they're healthy. We want to check them for mineral deficiencies or too much of a mineral. We want to check them to make sure they have the right vitamins and that they're healthy. So one of the results of their tests is that they were getting a little bit too much of a mineral or a little bit too less. And so we have to have special blocks made up for our buffalo to lick, because many times our buffalo in the past could roam all over the United States and into Canada, and they could get everything they needed. They can't do that anymore because they're enclosed in a certain area. And so we may not have that plant there. So what is it that we're missing? Do we need to reintroduce a wild plant back into that ecosystem where the buffalo are? Do we need to look and try to eradicate some of the plants and only leave enough so that the diversity is there, but it doesn't harm our buffalo because they eat it too much? You know, what do we need to do and how do we create that balance? So that has provided community college a real great area to do a lot of research in. So I'm sure hopefully there's lots of questions, and I'll quit jabbering right now so you guys can ask me some questions.
Okay, Facebookers, those of you, we have a few students on the webinar Zoom call here. Feel free to put them right in the chat if you could. I'll look on our Facebook feed. If you're a student, community member, whoever, if you are on Facebook, you're watching us, if you have any questions, just put them in the comment section. I guess I got one question for you. With the treaty, with the tribes, which all tribes? That all basically the Midwest? Is it Canadian reserves? What?
It's Canadian reserves, mostly in Alberta, Manitoba, and Saskatchewan. It's tribes in Montana, North and South Dakota. And there's more and more tribes are signing on to that Buffalo Treaty over time.
Oh, wow.
And they have a meeting every year where the treaty tribes come together and they talk about their herds, they talk about their visions, they share their ideas about what their different communities are doing. You know, this is what we're doing in our community that has been really accepted by our people. You know, this is what we tried to do and it didn't quite work. It didn't have the impact we thought it would have. You know, there's a whole bunch of things that can be done.
Okay, it looks like we got one other question from one of our students. Is there anything that non-natives can do to help support this endeavor?
I would say there's a variety of different things. You know, one of the things people don't realize is that tribes can accept donations and you can get a tax write-off for it. And many people don't know that. For our Buffalo program, we have worked closely with our finance department and we have a budget line item that we specifically have identified as our donation line item. You know, we've had a couple of hunters who were so impressed with the customer service and the tribal knowledge and history that we shared with them when they came to hunt here. One hunter wrote a check out for $300 as a donation to the Buffalo program. And that was really what inspired us to begin to have this donation line and to work and finding out, you know, what is the document that we can give these people who donate to us for our program. And that is really helpful because a lot of times our restricted grants are very limited in what we can do with it. So when we receive unrestricted funding, that's really helpful. And what you do is if you wanted to send in a financial donation, you would make it out to the Fort Peck Tribes Buffalo program. And then you would send it to the Fort Peck Tribes, attention, Fish and Game, Robert Magnum, Post Office Box 102, it says 1027, 1027, Poplar, Montana 59255. And an example of that is most of you know, if you've seen our webinar last week, that my oldest son passed away. And the company I work for is called Native. And it's a big, you know, it's a good sized company. We have a lot of clients from all over the world. And Native asked, you know, what entity would the family like us to give a donation to? And I talked with my son and my daughter and that, and they said, well, Mom, he hunted buffalo out at the Buffalo ranch 4 times. Either he got the buffalo, his brother got the buffalo, or our cousin got it, or some family member got it. So he got to go hunting out there 4 times. And you guys are always looking for money. You should have them donate it to the Buffalo program. So I did. I told them, I said, you know, honor my son by donating it to the Fort Peck Tribes Buffalo program. And so Native did that. They sent our tribe a $5,000 check to the Buffalo program to be used in our program. And I remember when Robbie got that check, he was just so excited. He was so excited when he called me because I had told him, I said, watch out for this check. I said, it'll be coming. So check the mail all the time. He said, well, how much is it going to be for? I said, I don't know. It could be, you know, maybe a couple $100, you know, maybe $1,000. I don't know. I said, it'll just come when it comes, it comes. And all I could make out was my son's name, Native, and $5,000. So I knew he got the donation, you know, and that's going to help us build our deck. You know, that'll help us, you know, put money aside for our telescope, you know, for families to use when they come out. So, I encourage people to consider, not just taking from your tribe, but also to give something back, especially to worthy programs that'll benefit many, many people. And we have a lot of people who come out to our cultural herds and come out to visit there.
All right, right on. Investing back into the buffalo herd. That's awesome. Also, there was one other, I guess, follow-up question from one of the students. Is there a website that is it on the Fort Peck Tribes website? Do the Pate group, do they have a informational website that that can be used to share with community members or people outside the community?
I know on Facebook that we've got Grant Staffney and World Wildlife Fund who put out information out on Facebook a lot.
Okay.
And on Fish and Game, if you go to the Fort Peck Tribes website and you go and scroll down to the Fish and Game department, they have a website there. We're going to be updating that website and putting more and more information on it. But we don't officially have a real informational webpage. I know that they've talked about it. They've talked about putting together a webpage, but it's not quite there yet.
Okay. Okay, cool. Yeah, that would be fantastic. I'd also like to get on Robbie on to talk about the herd itself. I know they almost act like a tribe. We were kind of like the buffalo people. I've always been really interested in listening to people talk about that when they just observing the buffalo, how they act. It's
Well,
interesting.
I got news today. I just got a text and a picture from Grant, because we have 3 herds. We have the cultural herd, we have the quarantine herd, and we have the business herd. The cultural herd had several babies in the last couple of weeks. The business herd has had several babies also in the last couple of weeks. But today, the first baby was born into the quarantine herd this morning.
Oh, cool.
So we have a brand new baby there.
Another member of the Pate Oyate. Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, right on. What are the major differences? I know there's the cultural herd and the quarantine herd. They're genetically pure, is my understanding from the Yellowstone. Is there any other major differences?
Yes, the business herd has anywhere from a 1 to a 1.4% of beef cattle genetics in it. And what we've been doing over the years is that we've been introducing pure genetic young females into that herd. We've been interjecting young bulls into that herd that are genetically pure. So we're slowly weeding out that beef cattle genetic out of the business herd. And pretty soon there'll be 100% pure bison. Our cultural herd is 100% Yellowstone, bison pure, and then our quarantine herd, which is not hunted or anything. Our quarantine herd is specifically for the diversification of the genetics in all of our herds. And like I said, we keep 30% of them, and the other 70% go out to other tribes and other conservation entities. My goal and my hope one day is that we can establish this as a conservation park in perpetuity, so that our buffalo and our wild animals and our medicines and our plants and that always have a place to thrive and grow, so that we as tribal people and our rural community have access to that. So that'll be our medicine cabinet and our storehouse, hopefully, for food. And moving toward the concept of a tribal park and dedicating that land area is going to take some effort and some time, because not all of the land belongs to the tribe. Some of it is owned by individual allottees, and we lease that land from them.
Okay. That's super helpful information. Fort Peck Community College, we are the Buffalo Chasers. So that's always our model that we try to impart to our students in the community. And so super important that we educate ourselves on our relationship with the buffalo, and then our health is directly connected with the buffalo. And there's so many different areas we could talk about. We are kind of running out of time here, but it would be super interesting to learn more about, maybe another conversation about how, as we integrate and start to eat more of the buffalo, what's that effect on our health? as we're sustaining this model within the tribes here, and that's what the whole treaty is all about. But if you look at like diabetes rates, all those different things, as we start to, because it's probably been a few generations that's been a integral part of our main substance of food, and that our health and the mental health, it's all kind of declined. But we're getting more and more buffalo, and we're integrating that back into our diet and our spiritual economy. It's super important for our own health, and so that's something I'd like to talk to you more about later on. I know there's probably a lot of other students that have many other questions on Facebook, but super interesting, and I really appreciate you too, Wee, for joining us and for sharing with us and giving us some of your time. So unless there's any other comments. Yes.
What I'll do is I'll put on Facebook, I'll try to put our Buffalo program's email address on there. So if anyone has questions, they can email me through that address. Okay,
cool. Yeah, I'll definitely send that out to the students' email address here at Fort Peck Community College, and we'll put it on our Facebook page as well. So medakuya pi doksta ke dayawachia kapi apetu washte yuha.
Hey ha ya hey ha ya hey ya hey yo hey yo hey ha ya hey ya hey ya hey yo hey yo hey ha ya hey ya hey ya hey Fort Peck Community College, me too, Gashi, Dagush, Kashna, Yogi, Piano, yo. Wata pepe agi kati haji anya no hey yo hey ha ya hey ya hey yo hey yo hey ha ya hey ya hey ha yo hey yo hey ha ya hey ya hey Fort Peck Community College, me too, Gashi, Dagush, Kashka, Yogi, Piano, yo. Wata pepe hagik tabi hachi ya bino hey